I didn't recognize my childhood bedroom when I came home for Christmas. The posters I had hung up in high school were gone, replaced by minimalist prints that said things like breathe and live, laugh, love. The fairy lights around the window had vanished. Even the purple blackout curtains I'd picked out during a meltdown sophomore year had been swapped with sheer white panels I never would have chosen. The bed, my bed, was now covered in cream linens and decorative throw pillows with sequins. On the nightstand sat a framed photo of my little sister, Shayna, and her friends at a concert I'd missed because I was pulling doubles in the library. I stood in the doorway like a stranger. This wasn't my room anymore. It was hers. "Hey!" Shayna came up behind me, barefoot, in my old college hoodie like it was hers now. "Oh my God, you're finally here." She hugged me tight like we weren't cold to each other in text the last 6 months. Her voice was all sugary surprise, as if she hadn't just fully moved into the one place in the world that used to be mine. I pulled back. "When did this happen?" I asked quietly, gesturing around. Shayna shrugged. "Mom said since you were at school and weren't using it, I could move in. You don't mind, right? It's not like you live here anymore." "Right. I didn't live here. I only paid for half the down payment on the car Shayna now drove to community college. The same car I was promised for graduation, until she suddenly needed one more. Your old stuff's in the basement," she added casually. "Well, most of it. I think Mom donated some of the clothes." The way she said it, like they were hers to give away. Like I didn't exist outside of a few labeled storage bins. That night, I sat through dinner like an outsider at my own family table. Mom fussed over Shayna's grades and how she was really finding her rhythm now, even though Shayna had changed majors twice and dropped half her classes. Dad barely looked at me unless I spoke first. The entire meal, Shayna kept bringing up memories that didn't include me. "Oh, remember when we went to Lakewood that summer?" she said, laughing. "That cabin had the best pancakes. I was at a pre-college leadership program that summer. They'd gone without me." When I asked how Grandpa was doing, Mom said, "You'd know if you called more." I had called. Every week. But apparently Shayna's one-time visit last month erased all of that. Later, after Mom and Dad went to bed, Shayna knocked on the guest room door, formerly the junk room, now my designated sleeping area. "Hey," she said, stepping inside, without waiting. "You're being weird." I blinked. "I just got home." "Yeah, and you've already made it awkward. This is supposed to be a fun week. Can't we just be cool with each other?" I stayed silent. She smiled suddenly, like she remembered something cute. "Oh, speaking of cool, guess who's coming over tomorrow?" I didn't have to guess. I felt it in my stomach. "Don't." "Liam." Her voice went high. "He's back in town too. He's coming by for game night." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Wait, what?" She blinked innocently. "You didn't know? He and I started talking again like 6 months ago? Kind of wild, right? Total coincidence." "No, not wild, not coincidence. 6 months ago was when Liam and I stopped talking. When he ghosted me, blocked me, said he needed space. He was my first real relationship. We'd met during orientation and spent 2 years building a quiet, solid love. Until, out of nowhere, he vanished. I stared at her. "You're seeing him?" Shayna tilted her head. "We're just talking. You're not mad, are you? I mean, you guys weren't serious, right? You never even brought him home." My throat was closing up. She smiled, wide and shiny. Anyway, don't make it weird. It's just game night. That night, I barely slept. The familiar hum of the heater, the smell of pine cleaner in the hallway, the distant sound of my father snoring, none of it comforted me. I scrolled through old photos of Liam and me, ones we never posted. We had agreed to keep it private while I focused on school, while Shayna was spiraling through high school drama. I wanted to protect it. I thought it made us stronger. I didn't think I needed to mark my territory. Now, I saw it differently. The next evening, Liam walked through our front door like he belonged there, and he did. My parents greeted him like an old friend. Mom even hugged him. He smiled when he saw me, but it was the kind of smile you give a distant cousin. Not someone who once kissed you at 2 a.m. while you whispered about your future. "Hey," he said, like it was nothing. "You look good." Shayna looped her arm around his. "Don't she, though?" she said with a smirk. She had no idea what she'd just started. But I did. And I wasn't leaving until I finished it. Liam sat across from me at the kitchen table, shuffling cards like he hadn't shattered me. Shayna had dragged out the dusty board games and poured everyone cider like we were back in some cozy family sitcom. Mom buzzed around refilling snacks, glowing with pride as Shayna told a dramatic story about her art class, like she was a creative genius and not someone who'd failed 2 elective credits last term. I watched her, and I watched him. They laughed, too loud, sat too close. He whispered something in her ear, and she playfully smacked his arm. I swallowed down acid. Dad dealt cards. "Your turn, Tessa." Tessa. That was me. The shadow in the corner. The quiet older daughter who studied hard, paid her own tuition, and got handed a guest room for her trouble. I laid down a move in silence, not caring who won. Shayna leaned in, nudging Liam. "She's always been good at games, like freakishly good. Don't let her cute face fool you. Tess plays to win." Liam smiled politely. "I remember." I flinched. Just for a second. Because yes, he should remember. How I destroyed him at chess in the campus library. How we played word games over pancakes. How he used to love that about me. But apparently, that version of me had been archived, replaced by the weird sister, the one who made things awkward. Later that night, Shayna cornered me in the bathroom while I was brushing my teeth. "You're being icy," she said, arms folded. "What's your deal?" I spit out foam. "You want me to pretend you didn't steal my boyfriend?" She laughed like I was being hysterical. "Stole? He ghosted you, Tessa, and it's not like you guys were serious. You were barely even public." "Because I didn't want you meddling," I snapped. "Wow." She blinked. "Paranoid much?" I turned to leave, but she blocked the door. "Look," she said, dropping her voice. "I didn't plan this. We reconnected on Instagram. It just happened." "That's what you're going with?" She shrugged. "It's not my fault you're boring. You always made everything so intense." The insult landed. It always did. "Maybe Liam wanted someone easier," she added, eyes gleaming. "Someone lighter. You were always exhausting." I stared at her, and something in me, finally, clicked. The next morning, I left early. Before anyone was awake, I needed space, not the Liam kind of space. Real space, quiet, perspective. So I went to the one person in this family who never took sides. Grandpa. He lived in a small brick house 10 minutes away. The porch lights were already on when I got there. He was always up by 6. He opened the door in flannel pajamas and a sleepy smile. "Tessa, girl," he said, arms wide. "About time." I collapsed into his hug. Over coffee, I told him everything. Not just about Shayna and Liam, but the slow erasure. The car. The bedroom. The one-sided conversations. The way my parents only seemed to light up when Shayna entered a room. Grandpa didn't interrupt, just listened, nodding softly, eyes sharp behind his thick lenses. When I finished, he leaned back. "Your mama's been too soft on her," he said. "She always was. Guilt'll do that. She never wanted 2 kids. Not really." That stung, but it made sense. "She was scared of messing you up," he said. "But she figured Shayna was already a lost cause, so she poured everything into fixing her." I shook my head. "It's not just favoritism anymore. It's sabotage." He tapped his mug, then stopped letting her win. "What can I even do?" I whispered. He smiled, slow and careful. "Use what you got. You've always been the smart one, the steady one. People like her, they burn out. All you gotta do is let them hang themselves. You just give them the rope." That night, I returned to the house with a new plan. I didn't lash out, didn't fight. Instead, I started being helpful. I offered to do grocery runs. I folded laundry. I even asked Shayna about her classes, genuinely listening like the supportive sister I used to be. She was suspicious at first, but then soaked it up like sunshine. By Christmas Eve, she was bragging to everyone about how Tessa finally chilled out. But behind the scenes, I was paying attention to everything. Like how she used my old login to submit an essay she clearly didn't write. Or how she charged things to Mom's Amazon without asking. Or how she read Liam's texts while he was in the shower, frowning when she saw one from a girl named Natalie. I watched. I waited. I remembered. Because the best revenge isn't loud. It's earned. It's precise. And mine was just beginning. The fake peace in our house was paper thin. Everyone smiled. Everyone laughed. Everyone said how nice it was to have the girls home together. But under that, the rot was spreading. I just kept my gloves clean while it festered. Shayna thought she had won. She thought I was folding, like I always did. But this time, I was taking notes. Literally. I started documenting everything. Every time she borrowed my clothes without asking, I took a photo. Every time she copied someone else's writing for her assignments, I screenshot it. Every time she flirted with someone else in front of Liam, like the guy at the coffee shop or the waiter at dinner, I quietly filmed it. It wasn't revenge. Not yet. It was evidence, because Shayna's entire world was built on the illusion of charm. But I knew the girl behind the glass. On Christmas morning, the family gathered around the tree, pretending we were normal. Mom handed Shayna the biggest box. "This one's from all of us." She tore it open dramatically, gasping before she even saw what was inside. "No way! No way!" she squealed. "The new iPad Pro? Are you serious?" She hugged everyone, lingering the longest with Dad. "You guys are the best. I needed this so bad for school." I watched the whole performance. No one had even asked me what I wanted this year. Not one question. Wait, Shayna said, looking around. Tess, open yours. I reached for the small envelope marked in my mom's handwriting. Inside was a $50 Starbucks gift card and a note that said, "Proud of you, sweetheart. Don't stress so much this year." Mom, that was, it no box, no tag from all of us, just caffeine and a condescending sentence. I smiled, though, because that card was the exact rope Grandpa was talking about. Later that night, while everyone was watching some Hallmark movie and Shayna was posting boomerangs of her gifts, I sat in the kitchen with Liam. It was the first time we'd been alone since I got home. He looked nervous. I could see it in the way he tapped his glass. "You okay?" I asked softly. He glanced toward the living room. "Yeah, just been a weird week." "How so?" He hesitated. "Shayna's great, but she's different. A lot. She always has been," I said. "But you knew that before." He met my eyes. "We never really ended things, did we?" I didn't say anything. I just let the silence stretch. Let him feel the weight of it. "I thought ghosting you was easier," he admitted. I felt overwhelmed. Pressured. But I should have told you. I owed you that. I shrugged. "You did. But you made your choice." He nodded slowly. "She's not who I thought she was." I leaned in just enough. "And who do you think I am now?" He stared at me for a moment too long. That's when I knew. By the next day, Shayna was spiraling. She couldn't find her charger. She couldn't get her new iPad to sync. Liam wasn't texting her back. And she had a huge essay due by midnight. Offered to help. "Really?" She blinked. "You'll write it?" "Sure," I said. "But on one condition." She narrowed her eyes. "What?" "You stop wearing my stuff without asking. And you stop calling me boring." She rolled her eyes dramatically. "Fine, whatever." I sat down and typed her an essay. But I embedded a paragraph halfway through. One pulled directly from a top-ranking academic website. A classic, easy-to-detect plagiarism snippet. She didn't even check. Just submitted it. Later that week, she got an email flagged with academic. Misconduct. Pending review. She screamed, sobbed, slammed doors. Mom hovered. "Sweetheart, how could this happen? You said you wrote it yourself." "I did," she cried. "Tessa helped me." She stopped, turned toward me, eyes blazing. "You set me up," she hissed. I didn't flinch. "You asked for help. You didn't read what you submitted." She lunged at me, hands shaking. "You're a snake." But before she could reach me, Dad stepped between us. "That's enough," he roared. "Both of you. This has gone too far." Mom grabbed Shayna's shoulders. "Go cool down. Now." Shayna shoved past them and ran upstairs. I stood still, silent, but inside, a tiny flame was flickering. That night, Grandpa texted me, "How's the rope holding up?" I smiled at my screen. Tightening. 3 days after the plagiarism warning, Shayna's smile vanished like it had never existed. She sulked around the house in pajamas, her hair messy, her phone constantly in hand. Liam hadn't come back. He hadn't called. He hadn't even liked her Instagram stories, though I knew from a side account that he'd watched mine. Mom tried to cheer her up with holiday leftovers. Dad kept his head buried in work emails. But me? I stayed quiet, polite. Supportive, just enough to look clean while I fed the storm. Liam texted me on the 4th night. Can we talk? I waited 2 hours before I replied. Sure. Coffee? He picked a quiet spot downtown, the kind we used to go to during finals when we needed a break from everything. When I arrived, he was already sitting there, nervously sipping from a chipped mug. Hey, he said, standing up like a reflex. Hey, we sat. He didn't waste time. I ended things with Shayna. I didn't blink. When? Yesterday. He exhaled. I tried to talk to her about some things, but she just blew up, accused me of comparing her to you, then started crying. So hard I thought the neighbors were going to call someone. That sounded about right. I'm sorry for everything, he said, quieter now. I didn't expect this trip home to feel like such a mess. You made it messy, I said. Not cruel, just honest. He nodded. I know. I wasn't fair to you. And honestly, I don't even know who she is anymore. I stirred my coffee slowly. I think you do. You just didn't want to admit it. He looked at me for a long time, then said, You were always the real one. That night, I didn't go back to the house. I stayed at Grandpa's. I needed distance for what came next, because Shayna didn't just take Liam. She lied her way into everything I worked for. The bedroom, the car, the trust, the narrative, and it was time to start rewriting that. Over the next 2 days, I collected more. Shayna's iPad? Still logged into her notes and DMs. She never used a password on anything. It took me minutes to scroll through. Dozens of messages to friends talking trash about everyone. Tessa's just jealous. She's always been bitter. My mom is obsessed with me, BC. I'm the only reason she even looks like a decent parent, LMAO. I could totally fake this essay and get another A. College is so dumb. And this one. Liam's hot, but kind of boring. Might upgrade next semester. I screenshotted them all, organized them in folders, labeled everything, just in case she ever tried to spin a new lie. On New Year's Eve, the family hosted a small get-together. A few neighbors, Mom's work friend, some distant cousins. Shayna made her entrance like she hadn't been melting down all week. Hair curled, face painted, glitter top that barely passed as clothing. She smiled like she had something to prove. Watched from the stairs, not hiding, just waiting. She floated over to a group in the kitchen. I'm thinking of transferring next year, she said. This place is so beneath me. Then she spotted Liam walking through the door. With me? Yes. With me. He met me outside. He asked if he could come, and I let him. She blinked, stared, tried to smile, but her mouth twitched. I could hear her fumble for words. Oh, hey, you two came together? Liam nodded. Yeah, we've been catching up. It's been good. She laughed. Right. Well, hope that's not awkward. I tilted my head. Why would it be? Later in the night, someone brought out champagne. Everyone gathered in the living room. And just as the countdown neared midnight, Shayna announced, I have something to say. The room hushed. I've had a rough couple weeks, she began, performing again. But I'm so grateful for this family, especially my sister. Even though she's been distant lately, I know she loves me. People clapped, some awed. Then she added, and Liam and I may not have worked out, but I hope we can all move on in peace. No hard feelings, right? Everyone looked at me. Smiled, of course, And then I added, especially since I've been helping Shayna with her college stuff lately. Even cleaned up a few of her essays. Shayna froze. Oh, and the iPad. Still logged into everything. You might want to check those notes. Wouldn't want your professors seeing your drafts by mistake. A pause. Too long. People started whispering. I leaned forward just enough. And just FYI, Liam's hot but boring, I said casually. Not your best take. Shayna's face drained. You went through my iPad? It was handed to me, I said flatly. Like everything else in that house. Gasps. A cousin quietly laughed. Someone whispered, damn. Shayna stormed out, slamming the bathroom door behind her. I didn't follow. Liam didn't either. When the countdown hit 0, I didn't make a wish. I just watched the fireworks through the window and smiled. Not because I was done, but because I was just warming up. The morning after the New Year's party, Shayna didn't come out of her room. At breakfast, Mom kept nervously glancing at the stairs like her golden child would emerge, all sunshine and denial, with a new story to spin. But she didn't. Instead, it was just me, Mom, and Dad sitting silently at the table, like strangers at a cafe who all happened to sit down at the wrong moment. Are you proud of yourself? Mom finally said, her voice tight. I looked up slowly. For what? Publicly humiliating your sister. At a party, in front of family. I set my coffee down. She humiliated herself. I just provided the mirror. Dad shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Mom's lip trembled. You've always had a mean streak, Tessa. You just hide it behind books and good grades. That stung. But I didn't let it show. You mean the grades I earned? Without cheating? Without taking from anyone else? She sighed. I just wish you could have handled it quietly. You two used to be close. I almost laughed. Used to be. That version of our relationship died years ago, drowned by passive favoritism and selective blindness. Now, I wasn't aiming for closeness. I was reclaiming everything she stole while they all watched. Back at Grandpa's, I opened the folder I'd been building for weeks. Digital copies of texts, emails, video clips, screenshots, every instance of Shayna borrowing, lying, manipulating, and bragging. But I wasn't interested in burning her just for fun. No. This was about positioning. My family worshipped perception. And I was about to change who they perceived as the responsible one. It started with the car. Technically, the title was still in Dad's name, but I had receipts, literal ones, showing I'd paid half. I brought them to Grandpa, who calmly suggested, "We go over a few things with your father." So we did. Dad was silent as I laid out the paperwork. When Grandpa asked him to explain why Shayna was driving a car I had helped pay for, and why she'd racked up 3 speeding tickets on it, he turned beet red. I didn't know about the tickets, Dad muttered. I did, and I handed them over, printed copies I pulled from public court records. She's been ignoring the fines, I said. If she keeps it up, the registration gets flagged. Grandpa nodded, then looked at Dad. And your name's on that. Registration, son. By the next day, Shayna's keys were taken. Then I moved on to the house. More specifically, my old bedroom. I waited until Shayna left for a so-called study session, then quietly brought down boxes from the basement. My boxes. I knocked on the door of my old room, stepped inside, and started unpacking. When she returned and saw me inside, She looked like she might explode. "What are you doing?" she hissed. "Moving back in," I said calmly. "I cleared it with Dad. He said I could stay until the semester starts." She stood frozen in the doorway. "This is my room now." "No," I said, turning. "It was never yours. You just got comfortable squatting in it while no one said no. The last domino to fall? The family trust fund. Grandpa had set aside a modest savings account for education expenses to help the grandkids. It was meant to be split evenly between me and Shayna. Only I found out, through some very quiet emails and a helpful contact at the bank, that Shayna had already pulled a large chunk from it. She claimed she needed it for urgent tuition fees. She used it for a vacation and an iPad. I didn't confront her. I went to Grandpa. He stared at the bank statements in silence. Then he said, without blinking, "She doesn't get another $1. And that's when he added, "You know, I've been thinking of adding a second name to the house deed. Someone who's earned it." I looked up at him. "You're serious?" "I watched your mother bury her spine to keep peace. I won't do the same. You're the only one who's shown up, cleaned up, and stood up. That house, it's got your name on it now." By the end of the week, Shayna had lost the car, the room, the trust fund, and the last of the spotlight. But I wasn't gloating. This wasn't revenge for show. It was restoration. I wasn't taking what was hers. I was taking back what was mine. The difference was subtle. But oh, it burned. It didn't take long for Shayna to realize the house was no longer orbiting around her. She slammed doors, skipped meals, cried loud enough to be heard through 3 walls, and posted vague quotes on Instagram like, "Some people only want to see you when you're losing. The real ones know the truth. Stay away from bitter energy. That's not your burden to fix." Each caption a passive-aggressive scream that the power shift had started to sink in. I didn't respond. That was the difference between us. She needed an audience. I only needed results. 2 days after she lost access to the car, she came for me directly. I was sitting on the back porch at Grandpa's sipping tea when she walked up in full fake sweet mode. Hair curled, makeup sharp, voice syrupy. "Hey," she said, like we were best friends again. "Can we talk?" I didn't flinch. "Talk or manipulate?" She tensed. "Okay, you've made your point. You got what you wanted. You have the room, the car, Grandpa's attention. Congrats. But what do you actually want from me now?" I set my mug down and turned to her fully. "I want you to understand that none of this was ever yours. You took advantage of people who loved you. You stole, lied, and weaponized being the younger sister, so you never had to take responsibility." She rolled her eyes. "Ugh, Tessa. Always so self-righteous. You act like you've never made mistakes." "I've made plenty, but I never made you pay for them." Her eyes glinted with something dangerous. "You really think this makes you better than me?" "No," I said quietly. "It just makes me done." She stared at me for a long second, then dropped the mask. "You think Grandpa's gonna stay on your side forever? He's old, Tess. You're playing a temporary game." I smiled. "You're right. That's why I made sure to update the paperwork." Her face dropped. "What paperwork?" I stood. "You should really start reading the fine print." The night before I returned to school, Grandpa hosted a small dinner. Just him, me, Mom, Dad, and Shayna. It was silent at first. Tense. Forks scraping. Glasses clinking. until Grandpa cleared his throat. "I've updated the family trust," he said evenly. "Tessa will be managing the educational accounts moving forward." Mom blinked. "Dad, are you sure that's fair?" Grandpa didn't look away. "I've been more than fair. Too fair if you ask me. But fairness isn't always equality. Sometimes it's about who's earned what." Shayna stared at her plate, cheeks red. He continued, "The deed to the house will eventually pass to both of you, but Tessa's name will be primary. She's demonstrated she can handle responsibility without burning the house down around her." Shayna looked up, mouth trembling. "So that's it? You're just handing everything over to her?" "No," he said, firm. "I'm giving her a shot at cleaning up the mess you made." Silence. Mom's hand moved to Shayna's arm, but she pulled away. "I can't believe this," she whispered. "You all think I'm the villain now." I met her eyes. Calm. Measured. "No, Shayna, you made yourself the villain. I just stopped protecting your story." That night, she tried one last play. I was packing in my room when she barged in. "I'm pregnant," she blurted. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her. She fumbled. "I think it's Liam's. He's not answering my calls, but if I tell him, he might—" "No," I cut in. "You don't get to drag him back into this." Tears welled up instantly. "You don't know anything. You're lying," I said flatly. "You're scared. So you're doing what you always do. Manufacturing a crisis." She backed toward the door. "You're cruel." I stepped closer. "No, I'm finally matching your energy. And for the record, if you were pregnant, that'd be sad, because I wouldn't trust you with anyone more vulnerable than yourself." She fled the room. Later, Grandpa knocked softly. He didn't come in. Just stood in the doorway and said, "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, just tired of pretending things are okay when they're not." He exhaled, voice steady. "You don't have to pretend anymore, sweetheart. You're not the forgotten one in this house." I bit my lip. That landed harder than he knew. As I zipped the last suitcase and looked around the room, my room, I realized something. Shayna might still live in the house, but she didn't own the space anymore. Not in the family. Not in Liam's memory. Not in mine. I left without saying goodbye. Back at school, I found peace in the silence. No one screamed through doors. No one stole my things. No one erased me from my own life. My little campus apartment felt sacred, small, quiet, and mine. I woke up on time. I aced my classes. I joined the honors council again. And best of all, no Shayna. Except she didn't stay gone for long. One evening, while I was working late in the campus library, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Tessa, please, can we talk? I messed up. I need your help. It's serious." I stared at the screen, blocked the number, kept studying. The next morning, Mom called. She never called. She was more of a just texting to check in type, so when her name lit up on the screen, my gut went cold. I picked up. Her voice was shaking. "Tessa, it's Shayna." Apparently, Shayna had dropped out. Again, after faking one more. Semesters worth of attendance, using an old student email and screenshots to convince everyone she was enrolled. She got caught when the school finally reached out about unpaid tuition. She'd taken the last of her savings, money, Grandpa. Hadn't locked away fast enough, and vanished. Mom didn't know where she'd gone. Dad thought she was still with a friend. Grandpa said, "She'll show up when she needs something." He was right. 3 days later, Shayna walked into my campus apartment like a ghost. Hair tangled, eyes red, cheeks sunken. She looked nothing like the girl who once strutted through parties, flashing smiles and dropping lies like glitter. "I didn't know where else to go," she said, standing in the doorway. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just moved aside. That night, she slept on my couch in borrowed sweats. She didn't ask for anything, didn't cry, didn't explain. But in the morning, I woke up to find a note. Not dramatic, not manipulative, just written, in small, broken handwriting. I don't know how to be someone without taking from other people. I don't know why I became this. I wish I knew how to fix it. But I don't. If you never talk to me again, I get it. But I'm sorry. For everything. It wasn't a performance. There were no hashtags or filters. It was the first honest thing I'd seen from her in years. I didn't forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I took that note, folded it carefully, slipped it between the pages of my old high school yearbook, right, next to a photo of the two of us, arms linked, before the world cracked us in half, because something in me knew. The story between us wasn't over, but it had turned, from revenge to reckoning. Shayna stayed 3 nights. Not because I asked her to, not because I forgave her, but because she had nowhere else to go, and I knew too well what it felt like to be invisible. She didn't post on social media. She didn't ask about Liam. She didn't dig for drama. She cleaned the dishes without being asked, folded her blanket each morning. She even left a small carton of almond milk in the fridge, my favorite, like she remembered. Something I never expected her to. On the 4th night, I found her curled up on the couch, scrolling through old photos on her phone. I could tell by the look on her face she wasn't admiring herself. She was searching for the girl she used to be. The one before she learned how to use charm like a weapon. She glanced up. "Do you ever think about who we were before all of it?" I leaned against the doorway. "Sometimes, but mostly I think about who I became because of it." She nodded, swallowed hard. "You became better. I became..." She didn't finish. She didn't have to. The next morning, Shayna was gone. She left a note again. This time shorter. "I'm going to try to fix it. Really fix it. I don't expect anything from you. But I hope, someday, you'll believe I mean it." She didn't leave an address. Just silence. And space. 2 years passed. In that time, I graduated summa cum laude, moved to the city, got a job at a nonprofit that helped first-gen college students navigate the maze of higher ed. Students like me. Liam and I stayed in touch for a while. Then one day we didn't. It didn't hurt the way it used to. Some people are just chapters, not endings. Grandpa passed quietly that spring. He left the house to me, as promised. Mom didn't argue. She sent a single text. "It was always yours." Anyway, I hadn't seen Shayna in over 23 months when I got the letter, handwritten, no return address. Inside was a photo of her, in scrubs, standing beside a sign that said, "Addiction Recovery Support, Volunteer Intake." There was a note taped to the back. "One day at a time. This is my day 114. Not asking you to be proud. Just want you to know I'm finally doing something that gives more than it takes." I sat in silence for a long time. Then I placed the photo next to the old folded apology note, still tucked inside my high school yearbook. Right between the photo of us laughing in 8th grade and the one from prom where we stood on opposite ends of the frame. I didn't text her. Didn't write back. Not yet. But I did whisper, "Good." Not because everything was healed, but because for the first time in years, nothing was broken in me.